Hello, my name is Kowe Kadoma, and I'll be presenting on the role of inclusion, control, and ownership in workplace AI-mediated communication. Imagine you're at work and a colleague asks you to write a letter of recommendation for them. You hear about how large language models like ChatGPT can save you some time, so you decide to give it a try. You prompt the model to write a letter of recommendation, and this is the result. It looks fine at first. But then you look a bit closer, and you realize the results are stereotypical and don't quite capture the person you're writing about. You're annoyed and irritated, and you take it upon yourself to make some changes. It takes some time, but you finally make the edits and end up with the final letter. In this situation, prompting and writing with a misaligned model, there are two types of harms that are occurring. The first is representational harms. Representational harms are how socially constructed beliefs and unjust hierarchies about social groups are reflected in model inputs and outputs. As you can see, the model produces this gender stereotype about women, characterizing Kelly as a warm person. The second is quality of service harms, which are how choices made to optimize models for particular imagined users result in performance disparities. In this situation, there are two aspects of quality of service harms that are occurring, hence the two arrows. While there are actually three dimensions of quality of service harms, the two that are occurring in this example are alienation and increased labor. Alienation can be described as feelings of annoyance, disappointment, frustration, or anger when interacting with technologies that don't recognize one's identity characteristics. When the model produces this stereotypical text, the person viewing it may feel all these negative emotions. Increased labor captures the additional labor effort required by members of certain social groups to make systems or products work as well for them as others. When the person has to edit the text, which costs more time, there's more work for them than somebody who wouldn't need to edit the text at all. In our research study, instead of prompting, we focus on people co-writing with large language models in a workplace setting and ask the following questions. Can the style of AI autocomplete suggestions impact people's sense of inclusion, control, and ownership over the text they write? And how do these perceptions differ by gender? We designed a 2x3 between subjects experiment to answer our questions. We have two gender groups. We group women, non-binary, and self-described folks into one category, also referred to as minoritized genders. And then we also have men. We have three writing conditions: a self-assured AI assistant, control with no AI assistant, and a hesitant AI assistant. While there are many cultural differences that guide expectations of gender presentation in the workplace, scholars in gender-based communication describe male talk in Western workplaces as being assertive, powerful, and authoritative. Because of this, we have a self-assured AI group. These same scholars describe female talk as more polite and with hedging, and so we have a hesitant AI group. We recruited 750 participants from a US-based gender balance sample on Prolific. Participants were asked to write a letter to their boss asking for a promotion. We chose this as a writing task since it's a situation that requires high assertiveness and it's a situation where minoritized genders face several challenges. For participants in the AI conditions, they see a screen that looks a bit like this. As they type, autocomplete suggestions appear in gray text. Our system allows us to capture the suggestions that the participants see, as well as the suggestions they incorporate into their writing. We're able to measure their AI reliance, which is the proportion of text written by the AI. After the writing task, we measured participants' feelings of inclusion, control, and ownership for those that wrote with the AI. All participants were asked about their demographic background. We asked 2 inclusion questions. The first one, "The assistant was made for you," captures this idea of technology as an extension of oneself. If people feel included, they'll see the technology as themselves. Focusing on figure A, we have 2 groups, the hesitant group on the left and the self-assured on the right. Within the treatment groups, we have men on the left and minoritized genders on the right. There were no statistically significant differences between men and minoritized genders in each treatment group, nor were there statistically significant differences between the treatment groups. We see a similar result for our other inclusion question. Moving on to control, we asked about control during the process and control over the message. The result for the 2 questions were similar, so we only show the results during the process to illustrate our main point. We did not see any statistically significant differences between gender within each writing condition. However, we see a significant difference between the 2 writing conditions. Participants in the hesitant group expressed a greater amount of control, as seen by these dark blue bars, than participants in the self-assured group. Moving on to ownership. The results for ownership are similar to the results for control. There were no statistically significant differences between genders within each writing condition. However, there were significant differences between the writing styles. Participants in the hesitant group expressed a greater amount of ownership than participants in the self-assured group. During our analysis, we considered another aspect of the interaction we hadn't yet considered: agency. We performed an exploratory analysis for agency. Agency can be thought of as the capacity to alter a situation. It's integral to a person's sense of well-being and how they move through the world, and a lot of HCI research considers agency as a good thing to design for. In our experiment, we operationalized agency as the average of control and ownership. There are a lot of factors that could contribute to agency, and we wanted to see if any of them could predict how much agency a person felt. We developed an OLS linear regression model and included demographic variables like age, race, and gender. We also included a measure captured by the writing platform, AI reliance, as well as our treatment group, which is reflected in the AI writing style variable. We did see that some of the variables in our model had a significant effect as indicated by the bold text. The most interesting were the interaction between gender and inclusion and AI reliance and inclusion. This figure shows the interaction between gender and inclusion. We see that minoritized genders are represented by this light blue line, and men are represented by this darker blue line. We see that the slope of the light blue line is steeper than that of the dark blue line, meaning that inclusion has a greater effect on minoritized genders' sense of agency. This figure shows the interaction between AI reliance and inclusion. We see that when participants feel highly included, as seen by this dark purple line at the top, they maintain their sense of agency during the interaction. Even when the AI reliance is 1, meaning that the person did not write the letter, all they did was accept the suggestions, they still feel highly agentic. Let's compare this to the light blue line that represents participants that didn't feel included. We see that as they accept more suggestions, they feel less agency. Based on these findings, we present a conceptual model of agency. We should note that not all the elements on this framework were tested or measured in this exploratory analysis. We see that based on AI writing style, there are two pathways to agency. On the top pathway, we have AI user alignment, which simply means how close the AI writing style is to a user's writing style. If there's high AI user alignment, then the user will feel highly included and will maintain a high sense of agency during the interaction. There is also AI task alignment, which describes how good the AI writing is for the task. If the AI writing style is great for the task, then the user may rely on it, which could ultimately undermine the user's sense of agency during this interaction. In both pathways, there's this interaction term in the middle, making the user's sense of agency a bit more complicated than previously described. In this study, we see that inclusion strongly impacts minoritized gender sense of agency, and that feelings of inclusion are integral to maintaining agency throughout the interaction. We present a conceptual framework for agency with implications for designers. The most salient question is the potential competition between AI user alignment and AI task alignment. How can developers strike a balance between models that are inclusive of various users, but are also effective in completing the task? This finding complicates the question of how developers can build models that help the user accomplish the task while also supporting the user's sense of agency. Further work is needed to understand the trade-off between agency and task performance in real-world applications.